Time is money. Developers and business owners know this to be true, especially in Dallas where it takes weeks, sometimes months to get required permits for projects, making building in the city more expensive. After the pandemic broke out, Jimmy Tran, principal owner of the investment firm Oakland Group LLC, signed a development agreement to bring multiple Code Ninjas locations to Dallas. Code Ninjas is a Houston-based franchise that teaches kids how to write computer code. He says he experienced firsthand the pain of obtaining permits from Dallas as he worked for 5 to 6 months to secure his first Code Ninjas location.
At one point, I didn't know if there was a light at the end of the tunnel. We were just in these reoccurring, never-ending loopholes. We're like, well, who do we need to talk to? They give us this name. Oh, I can't get in touch with that person. Or they say, oh, no, it's not me. It's this other person, and then he gets rejected. And we obviously ask, well, why? What can we do? What do we need to fix? And, no response, right? It's just, it was just bad, really bad.
When he's able to talk to someone, he often gets contradictory information from different people. Sometimes this works to their advantage. It would have cost between $3,000 to $5,000 to redo the plans, he said. So instead, he had the plans reviewed by someone else at the permitting office who said there were only a few small changes that needed to be made to meet all the required criteria. City council members get daily reminders from developers and businesses of just how bad the process has become. They often hear about how it's driving businesses away, as neighboring cities are not facing such delays.
I think the system is broke. We need to have a standard.
The permitting office and our construction industry in the city, it impacts our property tax revenue, which we need to run the city to provide basic needs such as police, fire, and then just basic city services, preservation of parks, libraries. It is one of our biggest job creators in the city, both for private industry and for the city itself. And to my heart, with my committee, it is the sole source of our creation of housing.
We should have the best of the best, of a process. And instead, we're hearing examples where it's done better in other places.
At its highest point in September, there was a backlog of 981 permits stuck in the city's pre-screening process. You're listening to the CobCast. I'm Cobb, and this is the cast. It wasn't always this bad. People used to apply for and inquire about permits at the city's permitting office in person. Justin Clark, a property manager at Moten Associates Inc., said this is primarily because they could never get someone on the phone. Nevertheless, people could leave the office with their permits, or at least some idea of what else needed to be done to obtain them. Last year, Dallas rolled out Project Docs, an online portal for pre-screening permits. About 20% of planning permits were being processed electronically through the portal before the pandemic. This skyrocketed to 90%, as operations were forced to be conducted remotely. It was a load that the system was not quite ready to carry, as Project Docs was not fully integrated yet. This led to the mounting backlogs, about half of which were for single-family developments.
Before the pandemic, actually, the single-family home permitting process was an advantage that Dallas had over other cities. I'm Phil Crone. I'm the executive officer of the Dallas Builders Association.
The process, which took a few weeks in other cities, only took about a day in Dallas. Now, it can take up to 12 weeks, he said. The delays in the process can have significant financial impact on builders.
As a small builder, you'll get a loan, construction loan out with the bank, and you'll have to pay interest on that loan, whether something's getting built or not. And these are small mom and pop businesses that may only employ 2, 3, or 4 people, and that's crippling. Let alone the workers and the trades that don't get an opportunity to work on these projects.
He said it also affects the city's affordable housing goals.
These delays make building more expensive, and you can't have housing be more affordable when building's more expensive.
Chris Sweckard, director of the city's Sustainable Development and Construction Department, told the council's Economic Development Committee last week that additional resources were assigned to the pre-screening process in response to the backlogs. However, he attributed some of the delays to user error with project docs, saying that despite explicit instructions, permits were being submitted incomplete or with mistakes.
So that's where we have our, again, more administrative folks checking the application, checking the plans they've submitted, making sure everything's filled out correctly, it's formatted, everything is there so the plan reviewer can do their job. That is what you're talking about. That is the pre-screen stage, and it has to be 100% right before it moves forward.
Okay.
Councilmember Jennifer Gates said the fact that incomplete permits can even be submitted is a red flag. Gary Heath, CEO of Evolve Software, which developed Project Docs, said they are reaching out to the city to improve the process. But he said the software won't be able to determine if a permit is complete because it can't interpret site plans like a person can. He said the pre-screen review has to be done by a person no matter what. Crone said the way the city is implementing Project Docs is what's causing many of the problems.
Builders and everybody just didn't forget when the pandemic showed up how to apply for a building permit.
Cities have different criteria for permits that are intended to streamline the process, like required labels or orientation of documents, Heath said. The software actually doesn't care if a file is rotated, or what files are named, Heath said. Some of the requirements, however, are causing more problems than they're solving, but many of them have to do with a lack of communication. Nathan Forty, CEO of Bluebonnet Construction LLC, said he's had clients who won't build in Dallas or lease commercial space in the city because they know how tedious and how expensive the permitting process can be. He said what's made it easier in other cities is being given a point of contact with the permitting office shortly after submitting applications. When facing such delays, Crone tells many homeowners and builders to just contact their council members. This will usually expedite the process. But Councilmember Omar Narvaez says it shouldn't be this way.
What's frustrating is that when I send something in to say, hey, can you take a look at this, where's this going, literally within an hour, maybe a couple of days, you all get the permits and you all get them fixed and it's taken care of and done. And that's not how it should work. It should be working that way for everybody.
The fact that it doesn't is telling to Crone.
But it is indicative of when the attention's paid to a particular project, how fast it does move. And that tells me that the city can do a lot more than what it's promising it can do for everybody that's waiting on them right now.
There have been some improvements. Before, when something was wrong with an application in the pre-screening process, it would be sent back to be corrected through the online portal. Once these errors were corrected, the applicant would be put back into the review process, but they'd be at the end of the line. Now, if it's an easy fix, Sweckert said they are calling the applicant and trying to resolve the issue over the phone. Sweckert said his department is working to further improve the system. By the second quarter of 2021, Sweckert said he wants the entire permitting process to take no longer than 2 or 3 weeks, a time frame developers have told him they can work with. In his 2020 State of the City address, Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson said, "To spur the type of development we want to see across Dallas, we must demand that our city's management provide a better, more efficient permitting process for businesses. Dallas is a great city for businesses, but to grow as we know it can, we must also be a great city to do business with."
I finally got the permits literally this week, but at one point I didn't know if there was a light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm Jacob Vaughn, a journalist based out of North Texas. Some people call me Cobb, and this is the CobCast. Thanks for listening.